Hello and welcome back to PleaseBeXcited Plays, the best mediocre content on the internet. So let's get into it. Let's just go through and introduce my amazing guest. Now first off, with the guest, I just want to say Gage wanted to be here, but unfortunately he's feeling a little bit unwell, so please send him some love. Apologies if you're a big GF2 Cool fan, but he will be back on some more content in the future, so look forward to that. Well, the chat's going off. Thank you so much, everyone. It's going to be a good time. Alrighty, so let's go through and introduce my special guest for today. So first up, it's the guy with the anime here from twitch.tv/VitsPatel. It's Vits. What's up, Vits? How you doing, buddy?
What's good, best friends?
Woo!
How are you?
Good, buddy. Good. Are you excited?
All different kinds of excited.
Nice, love it. Second up, we have soon to be famous for the official unofficial table read, the only person to do the Kessel run in 12 winks. It's Kessel Winks. How you feeling, buddy? How's the weekend going?
It's actually my Saturday, so the Sunday is great.
Nice, awesome, good to hear. And last but not least, it's the guy that told Johnny Lawrence he has a small wang and lived to tell the tale. It's comedian and actor Vas Sanchez. How you doing, Vas?
Good, guys. Thanks for having me. Very excited to be here.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, my pleasure.
This is going to be awesome as we hang out and play some Cobra Kai. The saga continues. Now, if you do have some questions for Vas in the chat, just throw them up there. But we'll be going through asking Vas some questions, obviously about his career as a comedian and actor. But yeah, if you've got anything that you want to ask him, pop it in there. We'll go through and ask as long as it's a nice, appropriate question. Thankfully, this community is incredible, so I'm sure there won't be any inappropriate ones. So.
We have the best people here.
We do, they're the absolute best. Alrighty, so should we kick off and get into it? Let's have a look and check out Cobra Kai, the Karate Kid saga continues. Now first off, Vas, so for people that don't know, obviously you are an actor on Cobra Kai. I love your character, it's incredible. So I definitely have a lot of questions. But I guess to start off with it, it's like, what was your reaction when you got offered the role?
I was very excited. I grew up on Karate Kid movies, obviously, like many people. I'm a big Ralph Macchio fan, and Billy Zabka as well. So I was very excited to be to get the role on this project. Anything in like 80s retro reboots, if it's done well, I'm very excited to do it. So I was really thrilled.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. You've got that sort of passion and obviously the history of the series. That's cool.
Yeah, they're great. It's a good series. A lot of fun.
I think the cool thing that particularly Cobra Kai does is everything in that kind of feels like a character. Like even that strip mall where you are, there's obviously some other characters, like the homeless lady. So I can't remember the actress's name, but she does a great job as well. But they do such a great job with obviously the characters throughout the series and developing them. It's such a cool show.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really well done, really well written. It's very like, to me, it's very much the way The Mandalorian is doing so well is because we're allowing fans to finally create the rest of the story, and so that's why I think this one took off the way it did. John Hurwitz, the whole team of writers, Hayden, Josh, those guys are all big fans of the Karate Kid. So who better to tell the story than people that love the story? So
it definitely shows, like you say, especially in the writing. Just they do it with such care, and it doesn't feel shoehorned in when they do sort of make fun callbacks and things like that. It's so good.
Definitely.
And what about you, Vits and Kessel? Have you got any questions for Vas as well as we're going through?
So you said Karate Kid kind of was like part of your childhood. As far as other ninja movies, did it just pass you, or were you at that point for Three Ninjas, Ninja Turtles, Surf Ninjas?
Absolutely. I know all of those movies well. Those are some of my favorites.
Oh my god.
That's awesome.
Yes.
When those came out, talking about how that strip mall is a character in its own, I remember going to a Taekwondo place that had a bookstore right next to it and a tax place to the left of it. Yeah. And it's just cut out of every memory of trying to go to like an American karate place.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up going to karate classes as well. I was actually very the only karate I wanted to take was Okinawan styles because I grew up watching the Karate Kid, and I thought that you could only take Okinawan stuff to be like the best of the best. Shout out to another great karate movie, Best of the Best. But so I took Okinawan Shorin-ryu. and it's like, yeah, the whole idea of like the shopping center and all that stuff. It's just so iconic.
It's awesome. And so I also wanted to ask Vas, just at the moment, obviously we're talking pre-show just briefly about obviously COVID and how that's impacted things. So how does that sort of impact you, I guess, particularly with your stand-up career?
Yeah, stand-up is definitely a little tricky. We are doing lots of different digital platforms, something similar to this. There's a couple of Twitch shows that I've been a part of. But like I said before, in Atlanta, there's some looser restrictions. So there are a few live shows, so long as they're outdoors and they're safe. People are wearing masks. I myself host a show that is outdoors, and we provide microphones, individual microphones for each comic. We require masks. We try and keep the crowd pretty limited as far as numbers, and then in pod groupings. So those were doing okay, sort of in the like early fall. But as soon as it started getting cold, outdoor shows started to thin. So now it's just kind of left to sort of the digital format and just a lot of writing, honestly.
Have you guys been hit with the parking lot shows yet? Like people coming as like a drive-in would be, just them in their cars.
Yeah, there's so many amazing innovations to sort of how to maintain an audience and keep a show going. And yeah, there's been parking lot shows, drive-through shows. One of my friends was maintaining a show that was literally at a very long red light, where each comic would go out in the intersection and just perform to the cars that were at the red light. That was timed. It was a 4-minute red light, so you had 3 minutes to do a set.
Nice.
It was really clever, just doing whatever we could do to sort of continue doing what we do. But yeah, at the same time, it's all about just trying to keep it safe and understanding that, at some point we'll be able to get back out and do what we want to do. It'll just take some time. And so just staying sharp as possible and continuing to write. Believe me when I say that this time in everyone's life has created a very fun niche sort of pocket of jokes to be created based on being stuck at home, like you had said before, having kids at home, all kinds of stuff like that. There are plenty of jokes to be mined from this situation, honestly.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. They always say like shared trauma like makes bonds that much stronger, and just having this as a touchstone for your family or friends right now that you're going through with, really just gonna bring the best hopefully at the end.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love how the people are just having to also maybe get a little bit more creative as well. Like I think we had Nick Scarpino at one of our other shows that we do, and he was saying that he was doing a show on a boat. Like they're just doing it from offshore on a boat, just with a loud speaker. It's just the fact that it's having to force people to be a little bit more creative. It's creating, like you said, maybe some interesting content.
Yeah, you do your best and get whatever you can, whether it be horn honking or revving. They rev the engines sometimes, or anything really. Some people will still get out and clap and yell and all those good things. So it is still nice because people still want to have that interaction. And I also think that because of what's going on now, people are even more appreciative of having a live performance going on in front of them. And so there's a lot more room to sort of engage with an audience, whether it be from behind some sort of plexiglass or behind your windshield or at 12 or more feet distance. It's nice to bond with an audience that really genuinely wants to laugh, because so many things feel like you can't laugh. So it's nice to be able to sort of find a laugh, find some funny in these times.
Do you find that there's less hecklers now? Like in this day and age of comedy?
I think hecklers are sort of this built-in permanent thing that's always just going to be part of the sort of comedic arena. There are the heckling is different. I don't know that there are any less, but it's a different kind of heckle than it used to be. It's not quite as negative, I would say. It's just a little bit more sort of interacting with rhetorical questions. Oftentimes, I think we find a lot of that. But I would say, I'd say in general, there's less of the like negative heckle, the like negative screaming and things like that. Just a lot of people I think people are just honestly trying to engage with a person, since it's been so long since people have had the opportunity to do so.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot to that in terms of, you know, this person's out here, they're trying to make your day a little bit better, so why not give them a hard time this time around?
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to be a real asshole to leave your house in a pandemic, go to a comedy show, and then just start like shouting negativity at.
Yeah. That's a special kind of asshole that feels the need.
That's a committed asshole, you know.
Absolutely.
So going back to Cobra Kai for a little bit, so what was it like? Obviously meeting, I was like Ralph Macchio and Billy Zabka. Like, what was that like, man?
Truly mind-blowing. You know, being in this business for as long as I've been doing it, you know, you don't always get starstruck. You just sort of roll with the punches, and you're always part of a bigger crew and a bigger set, and you try and maintain your professionalism always. But I was giddy when I saw those two guys. Those two guys are just they're literal blasts from my past. Like. And they could not have been nicer and kinder. They were so welcoming and warm and easy to talk to, and we made jokes about old movies and different things like that, and they were just so much fun. The connection that I kind of had with Billy when we worked through that scene together was remarkable. And Billy, I think we really kind of had like a nice little bond in our comedic fun with that scene.
Oh,
really
that's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, he was great. He was just so open to sort of improvising the scene and taking different tonal changes to it. If I wanted to be more aggressive, or if he wanted to be more aggressive, we must have done that scene like 15 to 16 times just to get it right without laughing through the whole thing. But yeah, it was great. And you know, Sholo is also plays Miguel, also an incredible actor, an incredible person on set. All the kids, every single one of the kids was amazing to work with. Just really a shining light to sort of the future of film and the professionalism that's coming with these kids, man. They're just, all of them were so cool and so gracious and so kind, and like, it was awesome. It was just like, that's great. These kids are all going to do great things, and like, it's great to see that you'll be able to watch a movie in the future and be like, oh, that was the kid from Cobra Kai, but see how far he's come, because they're all intensely talented actors, really, really talented professionals.
It definitely looks like one of those shows where everyone's just having so much fun behind the scenes from what you hear and what you sort of see.
So much fun. Oh man, so much fun. The kids, the energy was always just so raw, just very open. It never felt too sort of locked down or too over. There wasn't a ton of like rules, and I don't mean that to say that it was like loose and no one cared. I just mean it to say that everyone was definitely engaged with each other and having a really great time and really connecting with the characters. And yeah, there were just tons of laughs had constantly. I talked to Jacob Bertrand for a while in between a couple of scenes. He's the young man that played Hawk. And he had some talk about wanting to do stand-up comedy, and I was like, you do great. He's got a great, really wild live personality, and I really hope that he decides to play with stand-up for a couple of years, if not for a while, because he was really, really funny just off camera. We just had a lot of fun, and I think he's 17 or 18 years old, and I was like, dude, start now. Go do it now. Like, kill it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, good kid. Great kid.
Absolutely. I think it's really nice to see, because obviously the character he plays, he has quite the anime art, but yeah, because he's like so mean all the time, it's really good to hear that, you know, once the camera's shut kind of thing, he's a completely different person and has that, you know, ability to switch on the charm, as it were.
Yeah, he was a very, very funny kid, and again, all the kids sort of like grouped together and were very like, they were all one little pack. Like, no matter what the scene was, if it was Miyagi-Do versus Cobra Kai, they were all like one little group of people that worked together. And then, you know, they do the scene, they ate lunch together, they ate dinner meals together, they hung out together on set. It was just really nice. The kids were all so good to work with. Good group of people.
Yeah, it definitely shows. Was there kind of a feeling when it sort of was first announced and you first obviously got the gig? Because obviously it was on YouTube Red. Did it kind of feel like this more sort of smaller grassroots thing initially, or did it always feel kind of grand in scale?
It definitely felt a little grassroots at first. I mean, YouTube was, nothing to scoff at too much.
No.
They definitely put together a really wonderful show on the budget that they had to start. But at the time, YouTube was launching their YouTube Red premiere sort of service, and so YouTube being what it was, thousands and millions of followers on YouTube, so there was still the opportunity for grand exposure. But it definitely felt a little more grassroots. And of course, once we got picked up by Netflix, there was kind of a wild and dry celebration throughout, because it's an even broader, reach. But ultimately, even at the start, the project felt really, really, really well done. None of it felt sort of cheap or, corners cut or anything like that. Everyone from the top to the bottom was just a great crew. All the camera guys, the tech guys, everyone from top to bottom, intensely professional. Everybody was great. The stunt coordination, amazing stunts, amazing fight. Watching all that stuff go down, watching just how careful and how everything was mapped out, just truly, really, really cool. So even though it did feel a little grassroots, to answer your question, it still never felt like it was a low budget or cheap or anything like that. It felt like a great thing to be a part of, for sure.
And I think to that point, obviously, like when the original films were made, and most of the Karate Kid Part 2 was set in Japan, but I don't think the production crew actually went there. But I understand with Cobra Kai, they actually went over to Japan for the first time in the Saga's history, kind of thing, for filming.
Yeah.
So I think that just shows the kind of commitment to doing it properly.
Absolutely, they really did take it to the next level with everything that they wanted to do. With it, where they placed their money was really smart. How they put the show together, what they wanted to do with. Again, when we deal with fans trying to make a piece of art, we deal with such a rich piece of content. We don't deal with any sort of cheap sort of pieces or parts. It all feels very genuine, very real, and very like part of the story that you as a fan as well hope to see or hear be told. And they're doing such a great job with that. It is just exactly that. The example of going to Japan alone was such a cool milestone for that story, for the cast and crew to actually physically go to Japan. Very cool stuff.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I think for the people that did watch it on YouTube the first time, it was obviously, there was that feeling that it was something special. Like, I was really hoping it would get renewed, and when it did, I was just so excited. But to see where it's come now to, what was it, 74 million people that have checked it out? That's insane. Like, I knew it was something amazing, and you always wanted it to take off, but man, it just blows my mind that there's this new audience from Netflix that it's just really taken off. It's so cool to see.
3 seasons right now.
Yeah, it's truly incredible. We had when we hit Netflix, and then we hit, once it was released on Netflix, and we sat at that #1 spot. That felt unbelievable, unbelievable to sit at #1 on Netflix's top 10. It was fantastic, and it's a moment that everyone that I know personally involved with the project, we all still talk about it. We're all still like, hey, we had #1 for a minute there, and we're still in top 10, even at season 3, which is, again, phenomenal. It's so good. And I think the show does a really great job spanning 2 audiences. It plays to the older generation who watched that stuff when they were younger and really enjoyed it, and really it's nice to come back in that retro feel. And then it also plays to just the newer generation of kids that are like, wow, is this really what life was like when you were growing up? Was karate that big of a deal? And it's a great little joke that your parents cannot, it's a joke that parents can tell kids, that karate was a big deal.
That's it. Karate was a big deal, and there was no police. No police whatsoever.
Nowhere. They're just really late. They're really late to the party bits,
We don't sue in this world. We deal everything with karate duels.
I wish that would be awesome. You need really good medical insurance, but Oh, that's so cool. And what are some of the other projects that you've got on? Are you allowed to talk about any of the projects you've got in the pipeline at the moment?
So I've just finished, it's funny, so working with Machio and Zabka, I had auditioned at a point in time for a Sylvester Stallone film that was happening here, and got very close to getting that. I did not get that, but I was just laughing because I was like, oh man, it would have been great to work with another legend. And then not too long from that moment, I was cast in a project that filmed in Birmingham, Alabama, with Dolph Lundgren, who wrote.
I was going to ask you about that. That's awesome. I saw that photo and I was like, what? That's amazing.
It's very cool. Very, very excited to play out this one. Scott Adkins as well, who's a fantastic martial artist and stunt coordinator and actor, was the starring role in it. Written and directed by Dolph. Well, partially written by Dolph, but directed by Dolph. And just being able to work with Dolph Lundgren, you know, I joke with my friends. I was like, I need to do something in the world with either Van Damme or Schwarzenegger, just so I can be some sort of expendable, like by proxy.
Oh yeah, or at least make you the Stan Lee of the '80s action universe, where you just pop up in every single thing that pops up.
Just make fun of someone's, you know, penis size and then disappear.
You can deliver their mail, call them by a different name, and then make fun of their penis.
Just in every appearance, in every movie.
Every time the hero has to go to a gas station or bodega, a corner store or whatever, I'm always the clerk. I'm always just insulting them. And it's just a running gag. Hey, wasn't that the guy? Every time.
Dude, that guy fucking made fun of Johnny Lawrence's penis in Cobra Kai. He just did it to Rambo.
Shared universe? Will Rambo turn up in Cobra Kai? Let's find out.
And what was it like working on, because you worked on Better Call Saul for a little while, didn't you?
I did an episode of Better Call Saul. Another fantastic experience with an incredibly amazing crew, and working directly with Bob Odenkirk on that was another dream moment for me. Again, doing comedy and growing up in the stand-up world and pursuing all that stuff. Bob Odenkirk is obviously a huge influence on so much of what I do in live performance. He's a force. I mean, Bob Odenkirk is an absolute force. And it was really funny. I had just that day, I was on set in Albuquerque shooting that, and that day here in Atlanta, they were airing an episode of MacGyver that I was on. So again, I've been touching back with all of these great retro things. So I was on an episode of MacGyver, and I kept checking my phone, and Bob Odenkirk kind of chimes in, and he's like, "What's going on?" And I thought, oh, this is it. You know, like I've been checking my phone too much. It's very unprofessional. He's going to tell me to leave set or something. And he said, you know, I was like, oh, I'm so sorry, man. I'll go put my phone in my trailer or whatever. And he was like, no, I don't care. He's just like, you're checking your phone like you're a teenager. Is everything okay? And I said, yeah, everything's fine, man. I just, you know, I was like, I'll be honest with you. I had an episode of MacGyver air tonight, and a lot of friends are texting me about it. And he was like, oh. He just kind of got quiet, very Bob Odenkirk. He just goes, are you proud of it? I said, yeah, I thought it was a pretty good scene, pretty good performance. And he said, all right, well, did anybody send you a video clip? I said, yeah, my brother did. He goes, well, let's watch it. So we watched it together. And after the scene was over, he's, again, very quiet and stoic like he does. And he just goes, you proud of that? I didn't know what to say. I was like, yeah, absolutely I am. I'm really proud of that work. I thought it was a good scene. And then he goes, okay. And then we went back into the scene and started working, and I didn't know how to feel about it the whole day. And when we finally wrapped that sequence on the bus, we got back to base camp, and I'm exiting the bus, and Odenkirk kind of comes up to me, and he goes, hey, sorry, man, listen, when I'm on set, I stay in my character pretty tightly, and, you know, Jimmy's kind of a dick, so I was just kind of being like that. Because it's my character, but that was really great work. Congrats on your scene in MacGyver, and I hope to see you in other projects. And I was like, oh, thank you so much.
That's amazing. That would have been terrifying.
In character, Odenkirk has big dad energy.
Oh, big dad energy. That's such big dad energy. I was literally like it was just so strange. Are you proud of that? I was like, I
proud of that?
That?
You can hear it. You can hear like the Odenkirk way he would have said it. He said he's just like the Jimmy character. He was just so in touch with that character that he was busting my balls, and it was unbelievable. And I'll never forget it. I just remember I thought for certain that I was going to be in trouble for having my phone on set and being like unprofessional. And then I thought, now not even that. Now Bob Odenkirk just thinks I suck. And then later he was like, no, that was great. I was like, oh, thank God, my God. Ready to quit acting altogether.
So there's no coming back from that, eh? No.
Yeah.
Oh, that's incredible.
Man, I gotta say that I'm watching the game on the stream, and it's a pretty cool looking game.
You're
I
on
gotta say,
there.
Ben, this is very impressive.
Right.
Kicking ass.
Thanks, buddy. Did you see when
I forgot for a second you were playing it.
did you see that when I stuffed the guy in the octopus? Did you see that part?
Nope.
That was pretty great. The episode that you're filming, was that Vince Gilligan directing that episode?
Yes. That's what it was.
What was that like? That must be a lot of pressure, right?
I mean, you know, he has like a connection with Bob, and obviously, and like the, you know, being a character that's sort of just a little ancillary and just kind of helping the scene move along, sort of just being color to the scene. You know, you just kind of watch the art happen in front of you. You watch, you know, it's less about sort of what you're doing. It's a trust thing. They look to you and they're like, we know that you know what you need to do in this sequence, so we don't have to direct you too much. But there's a lot of other moving parts and pieces and things that are happening. So you get to watch the director get involved with other emotional pieces and parts, and like, truly amazing to just kind of be almost like a fly on the wall. You're there, but you don't necessarily have to interact in some of these sequences, but you can't get off the bus, obviously. This whole shot is done on the bus. So you're part of some of these other sequences, and you're out of focus, not in the shot, but you're watching some incredible actors really bring some emotion, some comedic timing, and then, yeah, watching Vince sort of tie it all together is I mean, it's amazing. Really watching people at their craft and doing the work that they do, it's beautiful. It's very inspiring. It makes you just like want to stick with it, you know.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was good stuff.
And so how many
Seeing
projects
some-
would you say you've got in the works at the moment, Vaz? So you got a... Obviously that one that
in
you're
the
talking about.
moment, yeah, in the moment, not too much is going on. There's a lot of Marvel stuff that's happening here in Atlanta, so I'm hoping to get a couple of opportunities to work on those projects. There's always a lot of stuff in the pipeline. My wife and I both are actors, so we are constantly auditioning, but nothing to speak of just yet. But that never means anything. That always just means there are lots of opportunities. So, you know, there's always plenty of stuff to jump on. I've written a couple of things. I wrote a pilot, and I wrote a full script, and then we shot the pilot right before COVID happened. So I'll be pitching that through the course of this year, trying to see if it can get picked up, and just things like that. Just trying to stay busy on all fronts, whether it be comedy, acting, writing, whatever I can get my hands on.
That's awesome. Can you talk to a little bit what the pilot's about, or you probably want to keep that under wraps, so take it?
No, that's fine. I can touch on it a little. It's essentially, you know, I grew up in the restaurant industry. I was a chef for years and server, and I'm a sommelier now. So it's just a matter of respecting the industry. So I wanted to write with my writing partner. She's an incredibly talented writer and actor. Amy Carpenter, really, really phenomenal. We partnered up because we had this wonderful experience at a restaurant here in Atlanta, and we just kind of wanted to write a very slice of life, something maybe like high maintenance meet, you know, Mad Men sort of kind of thing. But just a real slice of life, moment to moment look at the restaurant industry and sort of the characters therein. And this whole idea that, like, you think everybody goes out to eat, everybody experiences going out to eat, and it's not necessarily comedic, but it's also not straight. You know, it's just kind of one of those dramedy sort of things. That's basically what we're working with and on, and just kind of writing from our experience and these really fun characters that are all archetypal characters that exist in the world. So playing with that for right now.
As I say, if it's one thing people can relate to as well, I'm sure a lot of people worked at restaurants or cafes, you know, just, you know, when they're sort of starting out, or if they're studying, you know. That's
yeah,
great.
absolutely. Yeah.
And definitely makes for some good comedy moments. If I look back to when I sort of used to work in a bakery, like way back in the day. There's some stories there.
A lot of great dynamics, a lot of great character dynamics. So yeah, we're messing with that. I'm trying to see if anybody will be interested in sort of our approach to that to that sort of age-old story.
That's great. Now, chat, looking very active there, which is great. I'd love to see it. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out there. Once again, if you've got any questions, pop them in the chat there for Vaz, and we'll ask those as well. Yo, Super Video Game Brothers, what's up? Thanks for coming. Mr. Mac, Erica, thank you all. Well, hopefully there's some studio executives listening, Vaz, and we can get that off the ground, that pilot.
Hey, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Love it. A lot of cool stuff.
So how long did the pilot take to film?
We did it efficiently. I called in every favor I possibly could have for actors, crew, everything. We brought in some actors from Chicago. Really wonderful cast of actors. We ended up shooting the pilot over the course of 2 days. And then we cut it down into sort of a sizzle reel for pitching that we have right now. Again, calling in every favor, using friends' restaurant spaces as, locations, all kinds of stuff. And it really came together. It came together really beautifully. I couldn't have asked for a better crew. Cogito Creative, which is the studio that we use. They're amazing and really good friends of mine. So, that whole project was something that was just kind of a passion project. And like I said, hopefully, once we can get more folks, get it in more rooms, I honestly feel like it has a really great sort of platform. I think it's a really cool story and a really fun way to showcase the idea that everybody uses the restaurant's sort of a transient place. There's always people coming and going, and there's all kinds of folks that you meet and you fall in love with, and it's very insular, and there's just tons of different dynamic relationships that occur in a restaurant, whether it be coworkers or guest to server relations or chef to server, chef to any kind of relations. There's so many different ones to touch on. So it's sort of an endless mine. You can take any of those storylines and sort of run with them in different arcs. And again, some of them are very humorous, some are a little more serious. We want the restaurant world represents so many different people. And so we wanted to just touch on all of it and really play with it. So hopefully, I think it'll do really well.
So I bet there was probably a bit of interest, like when you're talking about that. I'm sure that'd be something a lot of people were in for.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that. I'm hoping again. I think there's a relatability to it. I think that people see themselves in the restaurant world and very like, I was a server, I was a chef, or whatever. Or just even if it's as basic as I go out to eat, I go out to bars, and it's interesting to find out who these people are that serve me, that run my food, who these dishwashers are, what's their story, the line cook, all the way up to the chef, all the way up to the owner. This is really fun, interesting stories that can be told.
Even when you think back to like Cheers, or even I never ever saw the movie, is it Waiting by Ryan Reynolds? Like those kind of movies, like they're so relatable, and there's so many fun moments you can sort of make from that. So I hope that gets picked up. That'd be amazing. I'd love to see that.
Looks like there's a question in the chat here from Mr. Mac92.
So, in the vein of Cobra Kai bringing back a series of a beloved 80s franchise, if you had the power, what other 80s franchise would you revive? In a similar Netflix style.
Man, that's a great question. I would say there's oh man. I mean, you had said Surf Ninjas. We were talking before. Surf Ninjas was mentioned. That could be really, really fun. Not quite 80s, I think. It's a little later, but still, that could be really
90s,
funny
but
and really cool.
Right in that karate
Done the
era.
right way. Right. Yeah, in the karate world. I would probably, I don't know, man. There's so many, movies that I would. I mean, I think it'd be really, really cool to see the Frank Dukes story for Bloodsport, like the full, like a 6-episode intense arc of like the Frank Dukes story for Bloodsport.
Yes.
Really cool and fun.
Call it Kumite.
Yeah, Kumite the show. That'd be so good. Yeah, there's a ton. I used to watch a lot of like sci-fi stuff, obviously in the 80s, and the one movie that I think did a good job of bringing karate and sci-fi together was Cyborg with Jean-Claude Van Damme, and I would love to see that dystopian future played out a little bit more in depth with Cyborg and the whole idea of trying to get this cybernetic being with the cure to some awful pandemic virus. across this plagued land. That could be really cool.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Jacek in the chat, Double Dragon, that would be awesome, Jacek.
For a whole series, I think Double Dragon would be good because the movie really missed the mark.
Yeah.
We just need to reboot the Street Fighter the movie into a series with John Claude.
Okay. 1994, the seminal classic Street Fighter is one of the greatest movies of all time.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not saying differently, Vince. I had it on Laserdisc.
It is a phenomenal film. There's so many moments where you're like, whoa, whose idea was this? Like,
Real talk, the speech that Van Damme gives, like his troops, it's one of the best speeches in movie history.
yeah, it's great, super motivating. It's really phenomenal. There's just so many wonderful moments in that movie where you're like, I just started to feel like each actor that was on each shot that was like, if it was for Raul Julia, if it was for Van Damme, if it was for, it didn't matter who it was for, whoever it was for, they were like, all right, you direct this scene. It was just so, so like focused, and I don't know, it was such a crazy, wild movie, but I loved that movie. I watched the hell out of that movie.
Absolutely. When you think it was a G.I. Joe movie to begin with, and then it was quickly retooled, when I think they had some issues with the licensing. It's amazing.
Yeah, such cool stuff there. There was a question in the chat from Mr. Mac92 that said, how did you get your foot in the industry, and what would you define as your big break? I would say getting my foot in the industry, I was acting in North Carolina when I was a kid, and I wanted to move to a bigger city. My hope was to move to New York, but there was a lot going on in the Southeast market, so I just moved to Atlanta. And getting your foot in the door is all about just persistence. You just have to make sure that you're investing your money and time into really good headshots, really good marketing, and getting yourself in front of an agent that will work with you and build your brand and get you in the right roles. My big break moment, I would say, was definitely Cobra Kai is definitely the biggest project for me that has garnished more attention and more I literally have like fans, which I've never really had before, and that's been really amazing. And I get like fan art and fan like mail, which is really amazing, wonderful, and incredible. And I have like a set of Cobra Kai playing cards that were sent to me that were really cool. Just all kinds of stuff like that. So Cobra Kai definitely is my quote-unquote big break, with more to come, I'm sure, I'm hoping. But Cobra Kai really opened some doors, so definitely that.
Yeah, I know you probably can't say, but I really hope you're in season 4.
Say that again, Cass?
Bez, between auditioning and stand-up, what would you say gives you the most nerves, or are pretty much even at that case and you're not really scared of either?
I would definitely say that stand-up gives me more nerves than auditioning. Auditioning really allows you to sink into sort of a role immersion and really invest in the idea of your work. And when you put it all together and really become this character and do all this research and build this audition, and then you put it forward, you know, a lot of the things that actors or new actors in the industry forget is like not getting the role is not equivocal to a failure. You have to consider yourself, well, we all have to do this, and this might be a little bit egotistical to some degree, but I stand by it. We are Olympians. We are all like these athletes, and we get to compete at the Olympics. So being called for a movie that's as big as a Marvel movie or as cool as a show like Cobra Kai, these are Olympic level performances that you have to bring. So it's an honor to be called to them. Whether or not you place gold, which would mean booking the role, doesn't mean that you're any less of an athlete. So I really love to invest in my auditioning and really put together really wonderful pieces of work that I can stand by. And if it doesn't work, if I don't get the role, I don't beat myself up. I just simply say the fit wasn't correct. But I stand by my work. I know that what I put forward in my audition is a really wonderful piece of art, and it's usable, and if it doesn't work, it simply doesn't work. Now, comedy, on the other hand, can be quite brutal. You can get on stage and you are all alone, and it's just you for 5, 10, 15 minutes, and midway through your second minute of your set, someone can heckle, or you can lose the idea of a joke, or You can feel the energy changing into the space, and it can be very nerve-wracking. So to answer your question there, for sure, I definitely get more nerves when I do my stand-up comedy than I do for auditioning. Auditioning is definitely something, it's like a place where I can just be comfortable. And stand-up is it can be very challenging. But I have fun doing both. Stand-up can definitely give you a run for your nerves, for sure.
Oh, I bet, yeah. Huge respect to
Which
anyone
gives
that
you
can
the
get up
biggest
there and
high
do it.
afterwards.
What's the biggest high afterwards?
Yeah, between the two. Like nailing an audition or nailing a set. Which one has the higher high, so to speak?
I would say the higher high comes from stand-up. Live audience interaction, there's really nothing like it. When you nail an audition, you're either doing it in person with a producer, director, casting director, or you're sending a tape in. So it's kind of hard to tell whether or not you nailed it, or whether or not they liked what you did, more or less, or if it'll fit what they want. But with stand-up, it's immediate. You come off, if you just had a great set, you know it by the people's reaction, by the cheering and the laughing and people coming back to you afterwards and telling you this, retelling your joke to you or things like that, having other comics telling you. So the high for stand-up is much higher. I love when I have like a great set and walk off stage. You feel like you're a million miles in the air. It feels great.
Awesome. Well, shout out to you, Kamal. Thank you so much for the raid, buddy. And welcome along, Carl. What's up, buddy? Thank you so much, everyone in the chat there. And once again, if you've got any more questions, pop them in the chat there. We'll probably go for another 15, 20 minutes. So yeah, let us know if you've got any questions here for Vaz while we've got him here. And yeah, thanks again so much for coming on the show, buddy. And while we're at this point, have you, is there anything you want to promote, or where can people find you?
You can follow me on Instagram at _Vas, VAS _Sanchez _. I know that's a lot, but that's what it is. If you just search Vas Sanchez, you'll find it. And nothing major coming up. Just be on the lookout for more shows and things like that. I'll always post them on my Instagram for stuff to watch and to come, see. So yeah, where you can find me.
Awesome.
And to check you out in Cobra Kai, of course.
Exactly.
Yes, of course. Please continue to watch Cobra Kai. We just started filming season 4, so fingers crossed for more Nestor the bodega clerk manager in season 4.
We need a Nesta spin-off show is what we need.
Oh, I would love it.
Come on, Netflix. People want
Can't
it.
wait to see you interact with Hilary Swank, right?
Right, exactly. It's called Nestor Vision. It's going to be huge.
Oh, that'd be incredible.
Ooh.
Can I ask, how does production work on a series like Cobra Kai being filmed during pandemic time? So are you all in a bubble and you have to isolate together first, and then you can be in the same scene as each other, or how does that work?
Honestly, they're all a little different. Every production has their own different approach to the COVID pandemic. Oftentimes that is the solution, is just to bubble you, depending on how many scenes you're going to be in and when they want to film it. But the industry standard is like multiple tests. Like you will be rapid tested, you'll have your antibodies checked. Once you've tested and you're negative, it is like absolutely like, please quarantine, stay safe, don't go out, don't do anything, for the safety of everyone else, obviously, and for yourself. But if you end up coming back with a positive test, anybody, the production shuts down for a minimum of 24 hours to possibly 48 hours. All of that time, though, everything that they have under rentals, everything that they have under like locations, all that stuff is still being paid for over the course of those days, and nothing's being shot. So it's very, very, very expensive. So it's just one of those things where every actor takes it seriously. It takes it very, very seriously, only because the production is just so much money. So it's just a very like, hey man, let's just do what we got to do. If you get booked for a role, you do your absolute best to stay COVID safe. When I was in Birmingham, they put me in a hotel and I was in a bubble, essentially. So that's what they do. That's kind of what they do everywhere, is they just kind of quarantine you in a bubble, where they can kind of supervise and make sure that you're where you need to be and that you're not around anyone else. And that's like the best way to do it. And they keep the sequences as well are a lot more minimal. There's not as many people on set, not as many people in the scene, like not as many unnecessary people in the scene. if it's just kind of a two-shot where it's supposed to be you and someone else, they're just going to kind of minimize it to you and your other partner and not need like the crowd that potentially could be there or whatever, and change the way it's shot. That's pretty much how that goes.
I think that's really cool because I think at the end of the day it comes down to professionalism, and whatever you bring to set, you just echo that throughout the rest of the process as well.
Absolutely, 110%.
Nice. Now, another question from the chat here, and before I do that, shout out to L Tribesman, love you buddy, thank you so much for the gifted sub to Serenity Bass. I'm sure Carl will love that. Question for Kamal says, have you done much voice work? And I guess on that, if it's not, is it something that you've considered getting into?
Yeah, I did do some voiceover work when I first started acting. It's very interesting voice work. I've always been, I do accents and different character voices and things like that. And that's really hard to break into. Voice work, especially in the Southeast market, is really for commercial work. So essentially, when you hear radio spot ads or when you're listening to a commercial and there's just a vocal ad for, Home Depot or something, those get you the most work. But I personally would love to work on animation, on anything like that, where I could use my voice and do all kinds of different stuff with it because, I can sound a lot different than I look, and I would love to expand on that. So hopefully one day I'll get more opportunities to mess with more vocal work because I really do love it. I think it's really cool.
Nice. And another question for Kamal here: as a stand-up, what are some comedians that you look up to?
Man, there's so many great comics out in the world these days. A lot of the newer, fresher, younger ones. If you watch any of the Comedy Central stand-up comedy sort of breakaway comics that are happening right now, Shalewa Sharp, Yamanika, she's phenomenal. Mike Rowland, Rob Hayes, just to name a few of the newer, younger, fresher comics. A little more classic. For me, it kind of goes, my roots go all the way back to like Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy. Like those were the guys that really kind of put wanting to do this whole idea of stand up. And then as you get a little bit older, you can sort of grasp the idea of, George Carlin and start messing with sort of that a little bit more political, a little bit edgier. And I loved all those guys. I still do love those guys a lot. But even Bill Burr now, I think he's just a phenomenal comic and writer. And Kevin Hart is a phenomenal comic and a great writer. And there's a ton of amazing comedians out there. I really do wish I had a better box to answer that was a little more standard. But I love them all. They all have paved the way in so many ways for so many different perspectives. Amy Schumer, she's amazing. There's so many incredible comics out there. Just really sharing some incredible perspectives. I really like Reggie Watts and a lot of what Reggie does, which is just intensely creative comedy. It's very different and very cool, and his ability to sort of mix music and mix media with humor is pretty fantastic.
I don't think I've seen his stuff. Whereabouts is it?
Sound loop machine.
Yeah, Reggie Watts. If you want to check out some really cool stuff, you can search anything by Reggie, and his ability to sort of beatbox and loop and create these musical numbers and moments within his sort of set is so it's all sort of improv and truly unbelievable, truly different, very, very different, and yet still humorous and entertaining and wonderful. So Reggie Watts is really a cool comic to check out for sure.
Awesome. Exactly, Kamal. You can definitely follow Vaz there on the Twitter there. Where did that go? That was Lunchbox. what was it? Lunchbox 814, right?
Yeah, Lunchbox is an old nickname. If you're an old Jay and Silent Bob fan, there's a moment where Jay calls Silent Bob and he's like, "Hey, Lunchbox." And so an old buddy of mine, an incredible author, Jonathan French, he and I have been best friends for like over 20 years now. He jokingly called me Lunchbox one day, and it just stuck because back in the day I used to
sound just went out.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Perfect,
you're
that's
back.
great.
Okay, cool. I used to do like set stage work, like doing. I was like a roadie, and saying the word Vas sounded too much like boss, like So I just started by going by Lunchbox and made it a much easier transition. And so when I started Twitter a billion years ago, I just left Lunchbox as the name, and I stuck with it.
That's amazing. Actually, do you have a lot of do you have any stand up online, Vas? Do you have any stuff?
There's a few things out there, here and there. There's if you search my name on YouTube, just Vas Sanchez, VAS space Sanchez, SANCHEZ. You'll find some stand-up stuff that I've done, pieces and parts of stuff that I've done in Atlanta. There's a couple of specialized specials that we did with shows that were like really focused. So I did a whole set on Star Wars. I did a whole set on Outcast and a specific song. We were all given these assignments. Like you're given this Outcast song now. Write 17 minutes on that song. What did you get from that song? What do you want to talk about? So there was the song that I had was Elevators. So I have like a 17-minute set on Elevators. Yeah, it was a great set. And like I said, I have a whole set on Star Wars. We did like kind of almost like a roast of Star Wars, so to speak.
Awesome.
Yeah, those all got filmed. We've done roast of Game of Thrones. On that one specifically, it was like literally like being on a roast dais, and each character got to be present. So you got to pick a character from like Game of Thrones to be. So I picked just being any Dothraki, and I was just like a Dothraki who had a lot to say about all the houses and just kind of. So I don't know if that one's still out there, but that was a lot of fun to just be like a Dothraki, raider, and just talking a bunch of shit about all the nobility in Westeros. And we did a roast of Marvel versus X-Men, and I was the Hulk, and I just basically, and this one got taken down a long time ago. The guy who ran it, we ran into copyright issues with Marvel
with
and
Disney and Marvel. What?
Yeah, really? At the time, we had it was a roast series. So on the dais, there was Bruce Banner, who's played by a really good friend of mine, and he was purposely being very meek and bad at roasting, and so he got, of course, angry and ran off. We were backstage, and backstage I just threw a bunch of pots and pans and broke a bunch of stuff, and then ran out as the Hulk, jumped on stage, kicked over the podium, insulted everybody on the stage, and then just sat down quietly, and it was really fun.
That's incredible.
It was great.
I wish that was still up there.
We did a roast of Disney at one point, and again, we ran into copyright issues, so that one wasn't still up there. But if you scroll through my Instagram enough, you'll see me dressed as Maui from Moana, and I did a roast of Disney at the time, and I basically told the joke, the aristocrats, but the punch at the end was the aristocats, and it was this long-winded, filthy, horrible thing. No. Involving all of like the Disney canon, just horribly disgusting.
I love how earlier you're like, I really want to be on Marvel projects. They've got some filming in there.
Yeah, it was a trip doing that stuff. And yeah, hopefully any of the Marvel casting people will never find that.
No, we won't be watching this, thankfully.
That's it.
But yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
You could find a few things on me and just see how I do,
YouTube, definitely. I'll definitely be checking that out. That sounds like a hilarious story.
Good times.
Vas, we got a question from the chat here from Mecha Shadow. So with everything that's happening now with your shooting schedule and how they're kind of taking out people that don't need to be there, do you find the scenes going faster, or are you having to shoot scenes a lot because of how funny you are?
We move more efficiently. I can say that. There's definitely more of a focus of sort of an efficiency. We can't linger too much simply because of COVID and things like that. But there is sort of there's sort of a built-in understanding that this is a funny scene, so this is probably going to take a few takes, or this is an interesting fight choreography scene, so it's going to take a few takes. So there's the honest understanding that this scene might take a while. But there is the sort of, it kind of harkens back to a time when you were younger. Like for me, when I was younger, I used to get told to stop goofing off so much. And so
is there still time for bloopers?
Yeah, oh yeah, those things still make it. There's definitely still pieces and parts of things that get cut and folded in. But it's kind of like that. It's sort of like, okay, we gotta get this next one, guys. You've done enough joking around. Let's try and lock it up and get a good one in this next few takes. That kind of thing occurs. But for the most part, it's still a lot of the same energy. It's just with a lot more respect to sort of proximity to people and how many people are involved. We're just a lot more perceptive of what's going on.
Nice. Another question from the chat. This one's from PleaseBeXcited. What's the writing process like, obviously, for your comedy? Like, how do you find inspiration? How does that all work for you?
So for me, my comic writing, my comedy stuff, I write. I'm a big guy. You go on my Instagram, you'll see me. I'm a chubby dude, and my whole life has been based on the perspective of that. Like it's being. I grew up in rural North Carolina, in the rural southeast of the states, and like being a ethnically ambiguous, because I'm Greek-Arican, I'm half Greek, half Puerto Rican, so no one could ever figure out what the heck I was growing up. And it's all based on things like that. It's all based on different interactions with people, different moments in life. I read a book a long time ago when I was studying improv about being just honest in comedy, truth in comedy, and you just have to be honest. Like comedy makes the most sense when you're telling a story that is really and truly funny to you. If it's not funny to everybody, that doesn't necessarily mean it's not funny. It just may not tickle the same sort of, funny bone, so to speak. But as long as the perspective of it is in itself humorous and you keep it true to yourself, you're not making up the story, so to speak. You're just kind of retelling your event. Oftentimes that's all I do, and it really gets a wonderful laugh, and we have a really good time. Just discussing. Essentially, it's an open-ended discussion of what I experience, and so that's all I do for comedic writing. It'll literally be just chatting with someone, and I will riff on this topic and think, "Ooh, I need to write that down," and then I'll write it down on my phone or on a notepad and go back to it later.
That's awesome.
What came first for you as far as just creative writing or comedic writing?
I would probably creative writing was first for me. I used to do a lot of sci-fi writing when I was a kid, like when I was younger, and I wrote a few pieces here and there in college. But it wasn't until I really got out in the world and started just having lots more experiences that I thought you should write that down, and sort of you make this sort of journal of funny moments, just kind of a literal living blooper reel of your life. And you do your very best to verbalize that on stage and make it so that it's understandable and relatable. And that's all I really do. But it's definitely more, I still write both to this day. I'll still write. My comedy stuff is a little looser. Like I said, it's a little more storytelling style. My creative writing is a little tighter, where I will sit down and actually research when I do write, which is kind of few and far between. But I would say that creative came first, and comic movie now just kind of comes easy.
Nice. That's awesome. And thank you so much, Jacek, for that sub buddy, gifting that out to the one and only Mark Ruffalo. Disney's definitely watching now, buddy.
Yep.
He heard Hulk and jumped into chat.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Jacek. All right, we've probably got a little bit more time, so yeah, if you've got any more questions, pop them up there. But dude, this is super fascinating, honestly. Like, I just love, like, especially the comedian and actor side of things. Like, having the chops to do both, just super impressive.
Thank you, and yeah, it's always fun talking about it, and really interesting stuff to just kind of let the world in on. It's a wild ride. It's a lot of fun, and while we all have to sort of take our job seriously to get paid, the best part about being a comedic person is that you can't take it too seriously. You have to take it lightly, or else you won't find the humor in it. And the more you live as long as I've lived, and you start to see the things I've seen, there's a great moment in The Watchmen, the original sort of film, and the comic book. The character, the comedian, is a great example of sort of the reflection of how comedians view life. And no matter how serious it gets or crazy it gets, it's all just a big joke in the end. And so, like, if you kind of can walk, you know, in that way a little bit, just always remembering that, like, it can get really heavy, yes, and things are awful, and things get bad, and things get scary, but somehow, some way, you gotta laugh at it. It has to be a joke. It's all a big joke. It takes a lot of the stress away, you know?
Especially right now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. With so much that's been happening in the world over the last 4 years, it's been a roller coaster. It's been a lot, and there have been some really hilarious moments. There have been some moments that are hilarious in context, but not that funny in reality. And then there have just been moments that are really serious, and those moments require reverence. It's not to say that you're not. It's not to say to be irreverent. You know, give them the space and time that they're required. And once the space and time have cleared a bit, you find the humor in it. You find something about that situation that is in some sort of way humorous. And a lot of times it's just really taking your perspective and sharing it with someone. I thought you know, wouldn't it be funny if, and you sort of fill in the blank, even if it's a very serious moment politically or globally or whatever. If you take that moment and really dissect it and go, wouldn't it be funny if, and just sort of fill in that blank for yourself, if you get a laugh from a close inner circle of friends that understand you, then that's probably a pretty good joke, and you might be able to build a decent premise around that what if potential. And that's kind of how it sort of works, is you have to take the risk in your mind and know this is a pretty serious topic, but I'm going to try and make light of it. And you can hate me if you want to afterwards, but I'm only trying to make it light. I'm trying to make us laugh. And, you know, in the end, if it's not that funny, then yeah, I won't say it again. But ultimately, the point of it is to make us laugh. It's to make us sort of ease into the pain or problem that is occurring. So that's sort of the part of comedy that's sort of untold, is like, without pain or tragedy, you won't get comedy. It will not be funny unless it's awful.
That old adage, tragedy plus time equals comedy.
Absolutely. It's true. It's very, very, very true. There's a reason that it holds weight, because it is absolutely the truth. I mean, fail blogs wouldn't be the best thing ever if it wasn't for tragedy.
So speaking of making things light, what do you do to kind of wind down and to take the load off of it? So is it movies that you dive into? Is it video games? Is it books? That kind of thing.
Yeah, movies and shows mostly. I do. I listen to a lot of podcasts. Honestly, I know this is kind of funny. You just said, what do you do to make it light? I listen to a lot of true crime podcasts. Wow. I think the reason I listen to it is those things often can show you how much worse it could be. So I listen to true crime just to remind myself that, like, hey, at least you're not the victim of some awful serial killer or something terrible like that.
You listen to My Favorite Murder?
My Favorite Murder is great. I listen to Gordon Scale, to all the stuff, Criminal Minds, all the stuff that's out there. I have devoured all of it, and it's so entertaining to me, the whole idea of sort of sociopathy and you know, all that stuff is just, it's wild to me. It's just getting crazy, wild, very. I don't like saying it's entertaining, but it's very intriguing. Like I don't like to say that
sucks you in.
Yeah, I just hours and hours are going by, and I'm literally like trying to piece this puzzle together that ultimately is either, and they tell you at the top, it's either a solved crime or an unsolved crime. But if it's unsolved, it's like, for whatever reason, you all of a sudden become this armchair expert where you think that you're the guy that's actually going to piece together this murder. And, you know, based on all the facts that they give you. And then for whatever reason, you find yourself going down some stupid, horrible Google, you know, rabbit hole. Just hours go by and you're like, whoa, what have I done? What am I doing? I don't know what the heck to do. Like, I don't know how to even approach this murder. I need to walk away from this. It's not even in my home state. There's nothing I can do.
I'll totally watch that documentary, Vas, Unsolved Crimes. That would be great.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Hey, it's happened before. That's how they got the Night Stalker, right?
Oh, I love that series.
Yeah. There's so many cool ones out there. There's so many interesting ones. But, like, I usually do that. I watch movies, obviously. I'm a big, like I said before, sci-fi nerd junkie. I love, you know, all things Star Wars and Marvel and all those things. Comic books and superheroes are always great for me. And then I like to I play a couple of different, like I play Dungeons and Dragons. I play Monster of the Week. You know, I'll play some games with friends, all kinds of fun stuff like that.
Now I need to know about your player character for Dungeons and Dragons. Can you spend some time and talk about that character?
My last character that I played was, essentially, like, I kind of like very, very traditionally keeping it really raw. Like, I was playing just like a straight up, like, there was like a halfling bard that I played for a while that I really liked.
Classic.
Yeah, exactly. Just kind of like straightforward, you know, like hitting the standards is always kind of fun. Because to me, it's like if you can play the classics really, really well, there's a reason why they're considered the classics. They work in the game so much. They're just so fun. They're not quite as specialized, like they're definitely specialized, but you're not as like so specific as being like a half-orc monk cleric thing. Like, you know, when you get too layered up, it's like you have one specific thing that you're trying to do and you really can't see your way past it. But if you're like just having fun as this like bard, like, you know, halfling bard, like, yeah. That or like Dwarven Barbarian is really fun because you're just a tank and you can just tear shit up.
Yep.
Stuff like that.
Goliath Barbarian myself for a couple years.
Yeah, like so fun. And then like, we were playing for a minute there. We were playing 5e, and we were playing with a bunch of different kinds of races. And because I was such an old schooler for so long that I didn't get into the new stuff until just recently. So I wasn't even like privy to all the cool like races of the world. I hadn't kept up with it for so long. So again, this goes back to my friend Jonathan, who's again an incredible author and a amazing GM, an incredible writer, and just playing all these really cool characters, and we just had a blast. We just had some real fun with that for a while. But then I like playing. I run Monster of the Week. I have like a game that I run where I play Monster of the Week, and I really enjoy that a lot. It's, again, it kind of combines like the true crime aspect with quirky monsters and stuff, and I love it. I can't get enough.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We've got a few D&D fans in the house as well, so
Yeah. Great game. Gotta love. I mean, for me, the best role-playing game that I ever played, that I want to get back into, but it really requires some commitment. I mean, D&D requires a bit of commitment as well, but this one, I loved playing Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. That was like, man, that game was so cool, so immersive, crazy good game, so perilous, no chance of survival. You had to play so smart. And I played that game for like 2 years, and it was so good, man. Great game. You guys ever
Did you
get
get good at painting minifigures?
Well, that would be more 40K. But Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay is tabletop, just like D&D. And like, it's super involved and super cool, and like the world is awesome. And I actually did like playing or painting a lot of minis just because my good friend Jonathan, he paints and he's incredibly good at it. And it was really therapeutic, very cathartic to sit with like magnifying glasses and little paintbrushes and just really ink out a character really nicely and get really stoked about it. But yeah, like the Warhammer Fantasy role-playing game, not 40K, but the fantasy role-playing game, wow, so cool. Like so cool. Every chance you had to fight somebody was like a moment where it was just super realistic in the idea that like there was no, if you didn't think about how you were going to fight this person and this person got one good roll on you, you were dead, man. And it was so crazy to play. Like you had to think about everything. So much fun.
Iris Carrera.
Yeah, so good. So good. And so much bigger, and the world was so much more massive than sort of a standard dungeon delve. The quests were bigger and broader. It was great. It was a fantastic time for me when I was playing those games.
That's got to be fun for a party, because at a certain point, D&D, your party gets too leveled up, and you start feeling like you can murder every guard in every town.
Yeah, I mean, when I played Pathfinder, I played like 10 games before I was like, all right, I can kill everything. Like, it just doesn't matter anymore. I played this like insane.
Ideas now.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun. Don't get me wrong. I love it. But at a point, yeah, you're just it's like having a cheat code. You're like, yeah, well, Characters aren't going to get any more difficult. I'm just going to keep killing stuff in cool ways with even cooler weapons. That's basically all it does at that point.
That's awesome. Well, that might be a good place to end. I don't want to keep you all day, but that's been super fascinating, man. Thank you so much again for coming on the show.
Oh man, a pleasure, guys. Absolutely.
But before we head off, obviously we'll give you a chance to make sure you promote your stuff so people know where to find you. So where's the best place for people to find you, Vas?
Yeah, I mean, mostly I'm on Instagram. I will throw my name in the chat here on the Twitch really quickly for everyone. That's really the best place. You can also follow me on Twitter. You folks already have. But yeah, I'm usually posting stuff on all those platforms and all the shows that I do and all the different things. You can find me on those.
Hell yeah, please give them a follow. That'd be amazing. And to Vits and Kessel, thank you so much for being on the show. Kessel, where can people find you, buddy?
You can find me tweeting about wrestling, D&D, or just, giving you props for all of your photoshops at KesselWinks.
Thanks, man. And they can find you on the OU pod very soon.
Oh yes, this year let's go ahead and start hashtag Be Your Guest. If you just need someone to just be a second chair on a podcast, hit me up.
Absolutely,
I'm always available on Sundays.
Oh, Mr. Matt gifting a tier 1 sub to Vas. Thank you so much. I'm sure I appreciate that.
Appreciate that, man.
Nice young man.
Love it. And Vits Patel, Vits, where can people find you, buddy?
Yeah, Vits Patel pretty much everywhere. And then recently on twitch.tv/VitsPatel, where we can find D&D games every week and much more.
That's awesome. And I want to say a huge shout out to Avenged Nicole in the chat there, Avenged92X. Someone could please give her a shout out there as well for her Twitch channel. She's been killing it, giving away those games there, so helping me out hugely today. So thank you so much, Nicole. I'm sure most people know Nicole, but she's obviously just a hugely supportive, kind of funny best friend and great, incredible mod. So please go and give her some love. Follow her Twitch channel as well. But that's been the first episode. Please be excited, players. We are back now. Once again, probably on Saturdays or Sundays at around 12 PM PST. Just keep it locked to Twitter to find out more each week.